This was really, really good. Really hard to watch for those of us that were around when September 11th actually happened. Seeing it on the news, it brought back a lot of memories. But this film in general, I think that they did it really exceedingly well. Great camera work. I really enjoyed watching how the genuine feel of this and how they went around and they were interviewing people on the street as this was happening. It was a very, very unfiltered look at the reactions of people who were standing in New York City at the time, not watching this on a television, that they were seeing it live. And that was really intriguing to me, to see how different people reacted to a tragedy of this magnitude. There were some people who were absolutely devastated and hysterical. There were other people who were very practical. And then you saw a selection of people who were really in denial about what was going on, or they just could not fathom what was happening. So this was really well done. The camera work was great. This was, I think, a very brave project to take on. And I loved the fact that they got all of the news footage and they added in the news footage and the radio footage from when this had first happened. So yeah, kudos.
Witness to 9/11. This documentary was so different than most of the others that you see. The filmmaker focused on the concept of getting firsthand interviews with the events of the day from the people that witnessed it and the people on the city street, the onlookers just wanting answers after they came out of the buildings of Manhattan. He found people with basically four types of personalities: the analytical types, the ones that were bewildered, those in denial who just want it to be over and get on with life, and then those that were so overcome with emotion. They understood the magnitude of the situation and how many had died and what does this mean for the U.S. He was good at finding these people. There was also a great shot of everybody in the afternoon at a park fountain getting support from each other and information and trying to figure out how they were going to leave the island of Manhattan. It was fascinating. I thought it was really well done. Thanks.
So I just watched Witness to 9/11. I thought this piece was fantastic. Very powerful, very moving. I thought this was an extremely compelling use of archival footage. It really, really puts you in the immediate aftermath of 9/11 and really puts you firmly in the time period. And, at times it's a little bit overwhelming. It's very heart-wrenching and very tragic. There is a ton of power in this film and the footage that it presents. I felt that the decision to let the footage speak for itself is incredibly effective. There's no voiceover, there's no interviews. It's just the raw footage. And, because it doesn't need anything else. It doesn't need any embellishment for the footage to have that kind of power. I thought the simplicity of that, of just presenting the footage as is, was extremely powerful. Very moving film, very well put together. Hats off to the filmmakers.
Witness 9/11. Strong and powerful documentary, very touching. It is something that probably has never been seen before. It's just been seen in just a few bits here and there. Myself personally, everything I've seen on about 9/11, it was just from the major, the major documentaries, major TV news, etc., etc. We never like the long shots, the view from the sky, aerial view, etc., etc., and then interviews to people that were around the area or were just inside the Twin Towers, but never never seen something like what was happening around the Twin Towers, like still in New York, but just a bit far away. That was very interesting. Really like how people were behaving in that 90 minutes, or 90 minutes, a little bit more, between the first crash and the fall of the towers. So, because we need to remember that there was a time, there was like nearly 2 hours. And I've always been curious about that. What were people saying during those 2 hours? Because now, after 20 years, you only remember them going down, and you don't even remember that actually there's been a bit of time between the first crash and the falling. And that was really interesting to see how people behaved, what people thought, they told their expectation, what they say, like somebody saying it was a terrorist, somebody else was an accident. No one really had information, because we also need to remember that in 2011 we didn't have internet, didn't have smartphones or Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or whatever, you know. So you were just hanging and not knowing exactly what to do. And really, I think it was really powerful, short documentary, and I really enjoyed it. Congratulations.
Hey, I'm commenting on the documentary Witness to 9/11 in the Shadow of Ground Zero. I have to start by saying how truly impressed I am that you've managed to find a fresh take on 9/11 and just a new perspective that I've really never seen before. I've seen stuff that was, taken from like inside the towers or like news footage, all that kind of thing. This is the first time I've seen like this complete, I guess, like home footage of what was going on the ground around the towers as the attack was carried out. I think it's remarkably effective. Like I said, just the fact that I'm seeing something new about this, this event that happened when I was all of 10 years old, and have lived with for the last, couple decades, is a feat unto itself. And then just having this compelling of footage, the fact that this exists is really, I think, an amazing thing, and it is it's really well done. I loved the way that you sort of started off the piece with the news of the day before the attack happened. It just sets such a perfect, like, mundane tone before all hell breaks loose. And yeah, I think that this is really, really well done and a really important piece. Very, very nice job.
We're on the ground in this emotionally riveting first-person account of being in the shadows of the 9/11 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. Anyone who was alive in America could tell you exactly what they were doing when this tragedy took place. My father worked at Fort Knox, so this documentary kind of hit a little bit too close to home. It took me right back to feeling this jarring impact that would change the world and my path as we know it. So we, in 2022, are used to having the technological capabilities to report broadcast journalism as quick as hitting a live button to see what's happening on our streets. But this was before the world that we know now. Mind you, this is pre-social media. There was no YouTube, there was no Twitter, there was none of that. And the smartest move to make in a crisis is to hit that record button. And that's exactly what this gentleman did. This man captured that day in a way I have yet to see. I found myself feeling uncomfortable, wanting to pause and walk away. Even found myself grabbing my phone to scroll to distract myself for a moment. But I really did sit down and end up watching this in one entire sitting. We roamed the streets just as the city did on this day, lost in this moment of surrealism, and we hear the news clips, we see the towers collapse. We all know how the story ends, as it does lead to a war. And honestly, my initial reaction after watching this documentary was the need for a shower. We get to see a well-rounded amount of reactions from the direct community. What I find the most interesting is when our documentarian begins to find beings on the street whom are covered in ash. He asks how they're doing. He checks in with them, and you can really see a trauma response on full display here. They seem to be the ones that are numb and affected by what's happening around them, rejecting whatever they may have just witnessed. It's a disturbing but necessary piece to get off the ground, especially with a lot of the things that are we're seeing happening in today's climate.